So podcast, my name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. We're going to be diving into the latest around Arsenal Football Club. A couple of issues to talk about, especially in that injury update. A couple of stories, including the Mirror saying Arsenal are still sweating with a few injuries as we enter the North London derby. Of course, it is this Saturday. It's an early kickoff. You don't want players to be out. You don't have so many players to be out. But of course, we do have a couple of injury boosts, including Thomas Partey, including Martin Odegaard, and a couple of other players. So we're going to be looking at all the players, how they are, what is the latest around them, and of course a few stories on the transfer update as well. I've seen Dusan Vlahovic linked with us once again. I've seen Fabio Miretti linked with us as well, and a couple of other players. During this international break, a few players linked with us. The likes of Lovro Moja at Croatia, and then. Just Lindstrom as well. So we're going to be covering all that. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the podcast as well. We are very close to 60,000 subscribers. Of course, get involved in the chat as well. Now, I think the biggest story to start with is Thomas Partey. Sky Sports have just confirmed that Arsenal are very, very hopeful that Thomas Partey will make it to our game against Tottenham Hotspur. That is a massive boost. That is a massive, massive boost. It's the story I wanted to wake up to. It's the news as an Arsenal fan. You want to wake up to that Thomas Partey is likely to play against Tottenham Hotspur in the North London derby. Now, he didn't play any games for Ghana against Nicaragua. I think didn't play that game, and also against Brazil, he didn't play that game as well. The manager for the Ghanaian national team said it was purely precautionary. He didn't feel well in the knee, around the knee area, and that's why they decided not to play him. So look, he came back at Arsenal, had a few tests, had a few scans. The medical system, the medical team, and the physio feel he will be available. He will be okay to play for us in that Tottenham Hotspur game. That is a huge boost. That is a massive boost. I think. Look. I was answering to Thogden on Twitter, and he was asking who is the name your best and worst players for Arsenal this season, and this was my answer. Best Arsenal player so far this season is Granit Xhaka, and the worst Arsenal player so far for me is Thomas Partey, because I cannot find any other player this season that has not turned up to the levels we expect them to turn up to. I've not found any other. And for me, the worst player this season at Arsenal, however much it pains me to say, is Thomas Partey. You can find me one other name, one other player that has not played to their expectations. Tierney, of course, you expect Alexander Zinchenko and the competition to limit his game time. But Thomas Partey, whenever he's been fit, he's played. And for me, he has not actually hit those levels. But you need him. We definitely need him. You cannot go into that North London derby without Thomas Partey. So the fact that he's back, one, the fact that we are expecting him to play and start for us against Spurs, that is a massive, massive boost. I think October is going to be a month where we will need to risk a few players, risk a few names like Alexander Zinchenko. He might play in that game, whether 100% fully fit or not. Thomas Partey as well. Martin Odegaard did play 90 minutes as Norway were losing yet again yesterday. But then if you played 90 minutes in that game, you expect him to be fit and okay for Saturday. So Thomas Partey is back. Sky Sports can confirm that Arsenal are very, very sure and very, very confident that Thomas Partey will be playing for us against Spurs on Saturday. If I were to rank the best midfielders right now, especially in defensive midfield, I think Spurs have the best midfield pivot in the Premier League right now, apart from Manchester City. Because I think Rodrigo Bentancur and Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg have just created that kind of partnership right from last season when Rodrigo Bentancur signed from Juve, and then they've just carried in into this season. They are really, really looking good. So if you want to dominate the midfield against Spurs, we're going to do a series on the Spurs game, how to beat Spurs and things like that. But if you want to dominate the midfield against Tottenham Hotspur, Thomas Partey is a key member of that midfield. I don't think Lokonga breaks play enough. I don't think Lokonga has the gas, has the ability to match the likes of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Rodrigo Bentancur. And of course, what Thomas Partey again gives us is a player who literally gives us all the defensive attributes in that midfield, but then also a player that allows us turn and be a better side in transition, move that ball forward a little bit more, create chances, as well, and penetrate into the final third as well. So Thomas Partey, injury boost, yes, he's coming back for the Tottenham Hotspur game. It's an early kickoff. They can be very, very tricky, and I think Arsenal will have to be very, very careful, because if you lose this one at the Emirates Stadium, by the way, that is one advantage. If you lose this one at the Emirates Stadium, there is no guarantee that you beat Liverpool the upcoming weekend, and we have 5 games of the Premier League. So for me, beat Spurs at home, grab a point probably against Liverpool, or grab a point against Spurs and beat Liverpool. Either way, it works out. And then you can go on and beat the likes of Leeds United, Nottingham Forest, and a couple of other clubs that we have in October. So as we enter October, there is a massive injury boost for me. I think Thomas Partey is a big one. The other huge one is Alexander Zinchenko. We've talked about Alexander Zinchenko in the past. His injury was just 2 weeks, and it was expected to keep him out for just 2 weeks. And I think this is the perfect time. This is the perfect opportunity for us to say Alexander Zinchenko is going to be back. So according to what we know, Alexander Zinchenko will be available for the Tottenham Hotspur game as well. Tierney did suffer a head injury, by the way, during international duty, but he was he was taken off the pitch as a precaution. So literally, there is nothing special. The good thing with head injuries is if it is not disastrous. I mean, they could be disastrous at some point in time, but if it's not disastrous, then a player is expected to come back as quick as possible. So Tierney suffered a head injury. That was, I think, Scotland were playing Northern Ireland, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're playing Northern Ireland, won that game, and they are just on fire, Scotland. They're just on fire. They did beat Ukraine, they beat Northern Ireland as well. They're doing really well. So Tierney, of course, is a key member of that squad, with the likes of Joe McGinn, with the likes of Aaron Hickey. If they take him off the pitch, right? If they discontinue him in a game, then you really have to be concerned. That is a guarantee. You have to be concerned if Scotland decide to discontinue, Tierney. But it was just a head injury. They took him off due to precaution, so you expect him to be available for the squad against Tottenham Hotspur as well. So those two, I think they just give us a lot of confidence, Thomas Partey and Tierney, because with Tierney, we are not yet sure if Zinchenko is 100% fit. I think Zinchenko is having a recurring injury. Thomas Partey is having a recurring injury as well. And my problem and the scare with recurring injuries is a player literally cannot, overcome them, within a very short period of time, right? So if they're very hard to heal, they're very, very hard to overcome. And that is why Thomas Partey is struggling with this same injury over and over again. He's not injury prone, by the way, Thomas Partey. The problem is that he has a recurring injury. That is the problem with them. So Tierney back, Partey back, Zinchenko expected to make the squad. Martin Odegaard, if you watch the Norwegian side yesterday, they lost again. I think they lost to Slovenia, one of those two. I think they lost to Slovakia. I think they lost to Slovakia 2-0. He played 90 minutes, had some interesting numbers as well, by the way. I think he created 2 big chances in that game, around 6 final entries. Those are key passes. Look, he's their captain, and they were really scared for them to miss out on Martin Odegaard. So Odegaard once again fit played 90 minutes for Norway. That is a positive, right? That is an absolute positive. Now, I do expect some shockers around the corner, around the way. Martin Odegaard probably picking up that injury that you're not expecting, or a few players doing this and that. But at least with Martin Odegaard, you have him back, right? I thought Fabio Vieira played very well in the last game we played, but I wasn't really 100% convinced with Odegaard out and Fabio Vieira in. Actually, I would love to see Martin Odegaard and Fabio Vieira play in the same team. I want to see how that kind of combination would actually work for us. So Odegaard is back as well. No question about that. Cedric Soares, that one is back. We can confirm Cedric is back, and Reece Nelson as well. Now, it will depend on the manager whether whether they make the final day squad or they do not. Again, that depends on Mikel Arteta. But for me, if they are back, if you have these players available, they definitely have to make the final day squad. So those ones are also back. So look, in terms of injuries, the one that we can worry about big time right now is Mohamed Elneny, because Mo is not going to be back until probably until after the World Cup. Right. The good thing is that he doesn't have a World Cup with Egypt. He's not going to miss the World Cup. Egypt didn't qualify. They're not among the African countries that did qualify. So that is a positive for him. So the big injury now is Mohamed Elneny. The rest of the players are not yet 100% fit. I've seen the Mirror saying that Arsenal are still sweating over a few injury concerns. Yeah, we do have a couple of injuries to concern ourselves about, but we should be able to field a decent 11 against Tottenham Hotspur. That is all I wanted, right? The three Gabriels are back. Bukayo Saka, magnificent against for England, against Germany. And this is what we talked about. We always talk about with Gareth Southgate. Saka has never played well as a left wing back. He's played there in previous times. He's played at left back as well, but his best position is as a right winger, right? Inverted right winger. That is where he plays best. And it brings him on for Germany, for the German game. England are trailing 2-0, and Saka for me is the difference in that game. Because a lot of chances, runs, he's always running. He's always running directly at defenders. He's a nightmare for opponents. And of course, look, again, he's one player that I've not really seen much from this campaign. I've seen Arsenal announcing the candidates for Player of the Month in September. Saka, for me, it should be Saka, because he scored a goal against Manchester United in that game that we lost, and then he created 2 goals in the Brentford game. So Player of the Month for me, September. If not Xhaka, then Saka. Definitely, right? Definitely. So Saka is okay as well. Martinelli is okay as well. So you have the front three fine. In midfield, should Partey make it to the starting 11, or Odegaard as well, and then Xhaka, you have that midfield three fine as well, and then the back four, probably Alexander Zinchenko is the only one we can worry ourselves with. The rest of the players should be in absolute shape. Good morning, of course, type for me. Good morning in the chat. I need to greet for you. I need to greet you, a couple of people, and see how people are doing. Welcome back, Cossy, after a long time without hearing from you, bro. Thank you so much, Issa. Chikore says, I'm watching from Namibia town. Thank you so much, Chikore. Good afternoon. How are you doing, Adama? How are you doing, brother Cossy? I'm doing well, Chikore. How are you doing? That is great news for us, Eric. Says Eric, look, Thomas Partey coming back is the biggest story an Arsenal fan will have to hear. And for me, come January, this is something we need to work on, right? That is something we need to work on, definitely. Being missing you and your update says, Jemba, I'm back, definitely back. Then it says, hello, Cossy, how are you doing, Dennis? Hope you're doing well. Friday says, hi, Cossy. Clement says, but Cossy, for sure, we need to get a new defensive midfielder. Look, I don't know. I don't know what the budget is, but I think Mikel knows this. He tried to do it in the dying days of the window. He did get one, but I'm quite sure he's gonna work on that. Right, he knows it. He knows it. I've seen it all over his face. Whenever Partey is injured, whenever he's answering on Thomas Partey's fitness in press conferences, you see it written all over his face. He needs a defensive midfielder, and for me, he will get one. Um, Good evening, Cossy. How are you doing, Eve? Hope you're doing well. Cossy, give me the lineup that you can predict on Sunday. Honestly, I think I need to see who is fit in the next 48 hours, and then we'll do my predicted. It's a Sunday. It's a Saturday, not a Sunday, right? Yeah, the game is an early kickoff on a Saturday, unless it is shifted. But if it's not shifted, then it is an early kickoff on a Saturday. Hi, Cossy, give us the available lineups. I'm going to do that as well. We'll do our combined 11 as well. Cossy, thanks for the updates. Thank you so much for the appreciation. We love you so much, says Thomas. For the player of the month, I will give it to Xhaka. I mean, he deserves it, right? No one can debate that Xhaka doesn't deserve player of the month at Arsenal in September. For me, his player of the month September, his player of the month August, and if he keeps the same form, he will, he'll be. I want to be. I'm so intrigued to see who's going to be player of the month for Arsenal in in October. Because I don't know, is there any player who's going to play all the games, all the fixtures, 9 of them? I mean, that's absolutely crazy. But I want to see. Originally, it had to be 6 Premier League games. 6 Premier League games. In that month, we had Manchester City, Tottenham, and Liverpool. You know, it's absolutely crazy. It's a crazy schedule, isn't it? So so that's it in terms of your injury updates and everything concerning the team news. I hope you guys are in a better position now, because most of the injuries were short term. Just like I reported in the injury crisis video, most of our injuries were actually short term, and that's why most of our players are back. They are all right now. So let's talk about some of the transfers that have been moving around this Arsenal side, and let's react to some of them. First and foremost, Dusan Vlahovic. According to the Mail, Arsenal want to get a duo from Juventus in Italy. Dusan Vlahovic being one of them, and Fabio Miretti being the other. Now, Fabio Miretti is a midfielder, can play as an attacking midfielder and also as a central midfielder as well. 19 years of age. Look, it looks like Mikel Arteta is banking on getting a midfielder in January. Of course, we know January is a month where you don't break the bank. I don't expect us to break the bank in January, but I do expect us to make very, very strong moves, especially for a midfielder. Now, if we get a midfielder in January, it is highly unlikely that we get in a new winger. So Fabio Miretti, for me, look, I'm going to be honest. I looked him up on the internet, a few clips on YouTube as well. He's not one player that excites me. 19 years of age. If we are going to sign a player who's 19 in January, don't sign anyone. That is my opinion. If you're going to sign a 19-year-old in January, for me, don't sign anyone. Wait until the summer, have a bigger budget, collect all that money, and get a sensible budget and bring in a sensible midfielder. So Fabio Miretti has not played really any minutes for Juventus. I think Arsenal trying to eye him as that potential big thing. And with Arsenal, we like these big things. It's gonna blow up and things like that. Anyway, the story is that Arsenal are preparing 110 million euros for Dusan Vlahovic and Fabio Miretti at Juventus. Look, Juve do have some financial difficulties. We understand, or we know they do have some financial problems. They do have some financial issues, and probably they could sell, but I don't think they would sell a player like Dusan Vlahovic. I don't think they would sell a player like Dusan Vlahovic. Areas where they would sell players, I think the midfield. So Fabio Miretti is one that can move on. But again, I don't see Arsenal go and get a player like Fabio Miretti on a permanent. Probably if it's January, it's going to be a loan deal, 1 year or 1 year and a half. We see how he does how he does at Arsenal and things like that. Reports are that Mikel Arteta is a big fan of Fabio Miretti. When did he even scout him? I'm not really sure. But one thing we know about Mikel is that he doesn't really bring in players that don't work for his system, and he doesn't bring in players that he knows nothing about. So every player we're looking at is a superstar, and every player we're looking at is a well-scouted player, by Arsenal scouts. So Fabio Miretti is one of them, currently playing at Juve, but he's not making it to the first team 11. So would you love Fabio Miretti? For me, a 19-year-old in January, I think there are better deals to do for us in midfield in January. Douglas Luiz around there as well. A few claims that he wants to join us in January. If there is an opportunity for him to come to the Emirates, would love to explore that. I think it's one player that will give us a lot in terms of experience in the Premier League, but also a lot in terms of squad depth and quality, especially as we go deeper in the Europa League. So for me, Fabio Miretti over Douglas Luiz over Yuri Tillemans, I can't agree. I've seen Yuri Tillemans play for Belgium. Whenever you surround him with better players, whenever you surround him with quality, is a totally different player. So for me, it's either Tillemans or Douglas Luiz over Fabio Miretti all day, every day. Now, Fabrizio Romano has also spoke about Dusan Vlahovic, and he said currently Arsenal are not thinking about Dusan Vlahovic in January. They're happy with the strikers they have, and Dusan is also thinking about Juventus currently. So look, I mean, there are few deja vus that do happen in football, but Vlahovic snubs Arsenal for Juve, and then 1 year later he signs for Arsenal from Juventus. That would be quite a turnaround. Yeah, that would be quite a turnaround. By the way, Fabrizio says there is nothing in terms of contact. There is nothing in terms of this story. It's a few clickbaits. That's why I didn't run the story of Dusan Vlahovic to Arsenal. I just thought it was a clickbait, and I really did want to, I mean, we had 3 months at the beginning of this year. 3 months, January, February, November, and December last year, talking about Dusan Vlahovic clause and this and that, and the deal didn't happen. I don't see it happen. I mean, Juve would ask for in excess of 100 million. Why would Arsenal sign a 100 million, player in Dusan Vlahovic when you have Gabriel Jesus already, in the position? If we want to sign a striker with different attributes to Gabriel Jesus, you have Patrick Schick, who's available. You have Ivan Toney as well, who could be available. I don't see why Arsenal would spend money on Dusan Vlahovic, honestly. Quality striker, one of the best in Europe. If you ask me, I would take him all day long. I think he's got that instinctive vibe around him. But that's all. That is absolutely all. I would really don't, I don't care about this story. I think it's kind of a clickbait, and it's one that has been, perpetuated by these, Italian mafias in the media. They always do that, and they're so good at doing that. I think they've looked at Vlahovic. Juve is sinking, and they've gone, why don't we try to link Vlahovic to a bigger club and probably, just grab the headlines? I think they grab the headlines because many Arsenal fans have been flying around Twitter everywhere. Cossy, are we signing Dusan Vlahovic again? It's not happening. It's absolutely not happening. But let's tell you what, one that could be happening is Lovro Majer. Now, Lovro Majer is a Croatian midfielder, has been playing with Croatia in these UEFA Nations League games. And what a player he is, I'm going to say. What a player he is. Currently playing at Rennes in France. I mean, it's quite intriguing to see a player come from Croatia and then end up in France. But playing for Rennes last season, played 29 games, 6 goals and 5 assists. That is around 11 goal contributions in almost 30 games for Rennes. This campaign, I think he's not really started very well, but is a player that we have scouted 2 times. Now that is the interesting story about him. Arsenal have sent scouts on 2 different occasions to scout Lovro Majer. Now, I mean, look, he plays as an attacking midfielder. He can play as a central midfielder as well. Actually, I think when Croatia were playing crucial play. Were they playing Sweden? No, they were not playing Sweden, really. They were playing Denmark, right? So they were playing Denmark. Arsenal sent scouts to watch this guy, and he started on the bench. But when you scout and the player starts on the bench, literally your trip is wasted. But when he came on, when he was introduced, in the second half of the game, 3 minutes later, he had a cracker into the back of the net, scored that goal, and Croatia won 2-1. So he's one to keep our eyes on. He's one to keep, to keep us very, very, attentive. I think there is a player in there, right? There is a player in there. So Arsenal have sent scouts on 2 different occasions to watch this guy. Let's see. Let's wait and see whether there is some kind of, good thing about him. Arsenal always scout players, but look, Lovro, one that is being scouted currently for Arsenal. The other is Jesper Lindstrom. We've spoken about him for Denmark. I did watch, like I said, I was going to watch him, and I watched him on a few occasions, right? I watched him on a few occasions for Denmark, and I think, he's got that Timo Werner vibe around him. No, look, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that he's a wasteful brat, or a wasteful, brat. No, I'm trying to say that he's got that kind of Timo Werner vibe around him, like running off the shoulders and stretching the pitch, at the same time with the ability to shift inside, shift into the middle of the park, and have a go, like Odegaard, like Timo Werner. I think we've judged Timo Werner wrongly at Chelsea. The strongest attributes of Timo Werner's game is not as a forward. Sorry. It's not as a number 9, right? No, he wants to play in that, right, 11 or 7. You can play him inverted. I don't know if you can really play him inverted, but he just loves to run, right? Run in behind, run off the shoulders, and things like that. So that is what Jesper Lindstrom, is all about. If you look at him, it looks like, Kai Havertz, but I don't think his technical and footballing ability is to the levels of Kai Havertz. I think, it's Timo Werner for you. But again, Arsenal heavily, massively linked with him as well. And of course, a few other players that Arsenal, are linked with this, transfer summer. I want to see what most of you are saying in the chat. Make sure you're hitting that button, by the way. Make sure you're hitting that like button. It literally means a lot for me. Because what about Mikhailo Modric? Modric, look, in this week where we had no football, I've looked at a couple of rumors. Mikhailo Modric is not one of the strongest that we can talk about, really. Yeah, it's not one of the strongest, but I think it's one where we have to wait until the summer. January, for me, that's not a deal you do in January. Over 60 million euros in January, it's not a deal that happens in January. It's not your usual January deal, not really. So James, it's not your usual January deal. Edward says, Cossy, Arsenal is going to miss this young talented player, Mikhailo Modric. I think with Modric, it will depend on the price and the budget. Now, we know Arsenal do not want to spend hugely on players that they don't trust. So it will depend. Do Arsenal trust Mikhailo Modric? They believe is the right prospect. And then do we want to invest all that money Shakhtar Donetsk is asking for? If not that, I think there's so many other interesting talents on the market. Moussa Diaby is one of them. Cody Gakpo is the other. So many others. There's so many other players. Ready. Anna says we don't need any teenage players in January. Yuri Clements and Douglas Luiz are available. Hope you're doing well, Anu. Regular on the channel. Thank you so much. Good morning, fellow Gunners, says James. Galavi says Cossy is all players back. We love you in Fort Uganda. Most of the players are back. Yeah, most of the players are back. I think the worry is Chenko and Elneny, right? The worry is Chenko and Elneny, but most of the players are back. Thank you so much for your updates. We love you, bro. Thank you so much, Clement. Hope you're doing well. And then Mark says Cossy, Danilo, Luiz, whom do you choose to fill in for Partey? Danilo or Douglas Luiz? I'll go with Danilo. Look, I have a problem with Douglas Luiz. He's got that kind of Jorginho vibe around him, overly possessive, overly they are passing the ball around too much, but they seldom make that cracking pass. And that is what I love with Thomas Partey. Although he doesn't make the cracking passes all the time, but he's got the engine and the dribbling ability to turn from deeper areas and advance the ball and create those transitions in midfield. That is why I love Thomas Partey. So I would definitely go with that Danilo, because I think Danilo, young, coachable, has the ability to dribble. And I think, being Brazilian, being this kind of real Brazilian, not the Douglas Luiz kind of Brazilian, being that kind of real Brazilian has, the ability to be a bowler in midfield. And bowlers, right? Defensive midfield has changed. When you look at Sergio Busquets, when you look at Rodri, when you look at all these other players, you can be a bowler in that defensive midfield. And if you have a bowler in your defensive part of the midfield, it just allows you to press. Is it pressing? Yeah, to press your opponents against the gas pedal, right? Imagine if Albert Sambela had the same intensity as Lottery, because both of them are players that are happy to come into advanced areas. Both of them are players that are really, really happy to, be on the ball and pass the ball in difficult situations. But when it comes to adding that extra bit of pressure, that is where Lokonga falls off. So for me, Danilo, yeah, Danilo. Invest in him. 2 years down the road, you have the perfect defensive midfielder for you. All right. Look, I think Danilo is more like a Caicedo. I think he's more like a Caicedo. So I would say Caicedo on top, but then then Danilo, then Douglas Luiz. I'm not really overly impressed with Douglas Luiz. I really wanted him in the summer because there was no one else. There was really no one else. But apart from that, it's the same thing with Ferran Torres. I don't want to see Ferran Torres at Arsenal, honestly. But if we signed him in the summer, it's a good deal. You have some squad depth. So now that we have more time, let's do a better deal. 160 people watching. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Let's get this video to 300 likes. Make sure you're hitting the like button. Hi, Cossy. I'm here watching from UAE, Dubai. Hope you're doing well. Dixon. Tali says I could worry Zinchenko. I could worry about him. The problem with Alexander Zinchenko and why we could worry about him is that recurring injury, that injury in the same area, right? But apart from that, I think he's a durable player. I think he's a player that with enough rotation is gonna be fit all day, every day of the week. Okay, one more comment, and then we'll call it a show. One more comment, call it a show. I'm gonna go with Kennedy Okomo, and it says, "Hey Cossy, Partey is good but prone to injuries, so Arsenal must get a backup to compete for trophies." For me, not even a backup, bro. For me, not even a backup. I think Arsenal need to find someone competitive, really competitive, to Thomas Partey. Honestly, it is high time we do that, because right now it's Mikel Arteta's time to to give accountability. And how does he give accountability? Winning games, winning trophies. So you need the best of your midfield to be fine. I'm so disgusted that we missed out on Florian Grealish. He went to Ajax eventually, but for me, Florian Grealish is one midfielder every top team in the Premier League should have looked at. Honestly, every top team in the midfield. How about Ruben Neves as well? Good one, a good shout. Ruben Neves is going to be 25 in the summer. If we can get Ruben Neves for me, why not? Really. Good afternoon, Cossy. What do you think the Arsenal will get in number 6 in the upcoming transfer? Now, defensive midfielders, they were available. There were so many defensive midfielders in the summer. You could get Ruben Neves, you could get Bissouma, you could get Caicedo, you could get Danilo, you could get Douglas Luiz, you could get Zakaria, you could get Edson Alvarez from Ajax. You could get Max Llorente from Atletico Madrid. You could get Cossy on a free from AC Milan. Eventually went to Barcelona. You could get a player like Brian Gravenberch, went to Bayern. You could get so many midfielders in the summer. But in January, it's a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky. I would do a Wilfred Ndidi, but Ndidi has dropped off levels. But I think if Ndidi goes to a team that plays well, he might just, he might just, step up his form. Cossy Lokonga is too lazy, says Edward. Lokonga is too lazy. I don't think Lokonga is lazy. I think Lokonga has that kind of, vibe around him that people, especially in the Premier League, don't appreciate. If Sergio Busquets was playing in the Premier League, I still believe he wouldn't be the player he is right now at Barcelona. Because when you look at Busquets, his game is all about pick the ball up and then pass it. He doesn't run, he doesn't dribble, he does nothing apart from passing the ball around. But that is their key strength. So for me, Lokonga, as long as he can tighten the strongest attribute of his game and sell it to the fans as this is me, this is my product, and this is my end product, and this is how it benefits the team. I think he's an okay guy. I think he's okay. Because we need Moises Caicedo, says Amara, and then Okoma says Cossy, you are doing a fantastic work. Just keep updating us as far as Arsenal is concerned. Kudos, thank you so much. And then Festus says Xhaka is surely player of the month. Thank you so much. Thank you for the accolade. I would definitely give it to Xhaka, honestly. Ruben Neves, yes, I would take him, but Bissouma was my dream midfielder. In this kind of system that Arsenal play in, Bissouma would be the better guy, actually. Because although Ruben Neves is a very, very good passer of the ball, I feel Yves Bissouma is better at breaking play. Bissouma is better defensively, and then he's just got that kind of ability again to dribble and come forward. But the good thing with Ruben Neves, he has a very wide, long, beautiful passing range. Like he can pick up a pass from his penalty area to the penalty area of the opponent without dribbling. So that is, he's got vision and he's got that very strong passing range as well. Bro, good morning. Thanks for the good job. Get us all the way. Make sure, I think we should do a morning show every day. So I think we should do it at 11 a.m. in the morning every day. So 11 a.m. Let's be here on every day. It's Monday to Sunday, right? Yeah. Of course, don't forget the 8 p.m. show. Sorry, it's there. 8 p.m. In the evening. We'll be talking more about Arsenal and Spurs, I think, for this week. Ruben Neves, yes. Okay, Festus. And then Cyprian says, bro, good morning. And thanks for the good job. So that is it for me right now. I'll be back. I think I will do an upload midway before the 8 p.m. show. And then I'll be back at 8 p.m. Hit the like button. Follow me on Instagram, Cossy_19. I have a few followers there, by the way. I'm going to be doing Instagram Reels and Instagram Shorts, Ask the News, especially top fives as well, and a couple of other, Ask the stuff. So make sure you follow me on Instagram. I think I should change that to Cossy Podcast as well. And then TikTok, I think I should change that to Cossy Podcast as well, so that I have a bigger network. Follow me. I'll be sharing my links in the description and also on my community. For now, goodbye.